In our headlines on this Thursday, August 14th, here in South Korea. North Korea's Kim Yo-jong is ramping up the volume of the regime's bellicose rhetoric, denouncing South Korea's acts of appeasement and dismissing prospects of cross-border engagement. Meanwhile, here on the local economic front, the Finance Ministry removes the phrase downside pressure from its economic green book for the month of August for the first time since last December. And the latest torrential rain here in the Greater Seoul area has taken at least 3 lives in wet road accidents, prompting widespread calls for caution by authorities. North Korea has denied dismantling its loudspeakers directed towards South Korea, as earlier reported by officials here in the country. Pyongyang has our top story.
Kim Yo-jong, the powerful sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, has rejected Seoul's conciliatory measures and reaffirmed Pyongyang's intent to maintain its hostile stance. In a statement released through the North state-run Korean Central News Agency on Thursday, Kim dismissed recent measures by the Lee Jae-myung administration, which took office in June, pledging to mend strained ties with North Korea. Lee's government has halted anti-Pyongyang loudspeaker broadcasts, moved to ban leaflet balloon launches, and repatriated North Koreans who had drifted south in wooden boats. Responding to Lee's remarks on Tuesday that the North has also removed some loudspeakers, Kim called it groundless speculation and a manipulation of public opinion, insisting North Korea has not dismantled the loudspeakers deployed along the border and doesn't intend to dismantle them. At a briefing on Thursday, South Korea's Ministry of National Defense said the military had explained the facts based on its observations of North Korea removing speakers. It urged caution against being swayed by the intent behind North Korea's announcements, adding it has often made unfounded claims. Also in her statement, Kim Yo-jong criticized adjustments to the upcoming US-Korean Ulji Freedom Shield joint military drills starting on August 18th, dismissing them as worthless and futile. She added that Pyongyang has no intention of improving relations with a loyal servant and faithful ally of the United States. She also accused Seoul of trying to score political points by reversing measures from the previous Yoon Suk-yeol government, calling such efforts an empty dream that would not draw Pyongyang's attention. Kim further brushed off speculation that the summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, scheduled for Friday, could revive U.S.-North Korea dialogue, saying there was no reason for North Korea to sit down with the U.S. She warned that if Washington clings to what she called outdated thinking, any meeting would remain merely a U.S. hope, and that North Korea had no interest in talks that dwell on an irreversible past. Pyongyang, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, speaking of Washington, its top diplomat has reaffirmed U.S. commitment to advance the, quote, ironclad alliance with South Korea. In a statement on Wednesday local time, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also congratulated South Korea on its 80th anniversary of its liberation from Japanese colonial rule that will be celebrated tomorrow, that is Friday, August 15th. Calling South Korea an indispensable ally, Rubio said Washington will continue to confront the most pressing global security challenges by working together with the government here. President Jae-myung has highlighted the importance of respecting and remembering the selfless sacrifices of Korea's independence activists. Earlier on this Thursday, one day ahead of Friday's Liberation Day, he hosted a luncheon at Cheongwade's Yeongbin-gwan Reception Hall for the families of those who fought for freedom from Japanese colonial rule.
독립운동하면 3대가 망한다라는 이런 말은 앞으로 더 이상 통용될 수 없도록 국가를 위한 희생에는 예우도 높게 지원은 두텁게 하겠습니다. 생존해 계신 애국 지사님들이 남은 여생을 불편함 없이 보내실 수 있도록 각별히 챙겨가겠습니다.
The president also pledged to expand programs honoring the heroes to ensure their legacy lives on. In less than a fortnight, President Jae-myung and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump will sit down at the White House to address the finer details of the trade framework hammered out by their trade ministers, and pundits believe there are a few points of contention that need to be ironed out. Our correspondent Moon Ji-young explains.
As the August 25th Korea-US summit approaches, unresolved trade issues are taking center stage. A primary point of contention is the finalization of Korea's plus $350 billion investment. The two countries notably hold differing views. While the U.S. asserts the investment plan falls under the president's direction, Korea clarifies that the U.S. dictating all investment destinations is merely political expression. Observers point to what to anticipate regarding the summit's outcome.
President Trump will probably push very hard for Korea to accept his interpretation rather than the Korean or Japanese interpretation. And it'll be a very tough pressure because Trump will be negotiating not just for the Korean deal, but he's probably going to use the results from the Korean deal and reinterpretation as a model for Japan, European Union, and other countries as well.
Another critical issue is the U.S.'s proposed 100% tariff on foreign-made semiconductors. The key uncertainty for Korea lies in whether the most favored nation treatment proposed by the U.S. will be applied. In fact, these chip tariffs have a significant impact not only on exporters to the U.S., but also on the American economy.
In terms of like this meaning of the tariffs, obviously on our daily lives are like completely depending on the electronics such as smartphone, TVs, and internet-based machines. So in that case, semiconductors are going to be extremely important. Therefore, the prices of consumers and also producers actually will eventually go up. So the most important effect is going to come through the inflation.
Agricultural market access also remains a contentious issue. While the U.S. calls for historical market access for its agricultural products like rice and beef, Korea has firmly rejected any further opening, emphasizing that there will be no additional market access. Beyond this point, further non-tariff barriers like Google's high-precision map data export will be crucial issues to monitor at the upcoming summit. 문지영, Arirang News.
And on the economic front, the Finance Ministry believes the economy is showing signs of a subtle but tangible improvement. Park Jun-an covers the latest findings.
The Ministry of Economy and Finance removed the phrase downside pressure from the country's economic green book for August on Thursday for the first time this year. In the green book, the ministry noted that the country's economy has faced delays in the recovery of construction investment, employment challenges concentrated in vulnerable sectors, and concerns over a slowdown in exports due to U.S. tariffs. However, it highlighted some positive signs, including increased consumption driven by policies such as supplementary budgets and the distribution of a nationwide livelihood recovery consumption coupon.
Since the new government took office, expectations for supplementary budgets and the implementation of the livelihood recovery consumption coupon have boosted consumption. As a result, August's assessment shifts from saying consumption recovery is delayed to noting positive signs, such as an upward trend in consumption.
Exports in July grew 5.9% compared to the same period last year, led by semiconductors, while inflation moderately eased to 2.1%. The shift to an optimistic sentiment on consumption by consumers aligned with improved domestic and global uncertainties. The Composite Consumer Sentiment Index, considered optimistic when above 100, rose to 110.8 in July, marking 4 consecutive months of increases.
Consumer sentiment has gradually improved as political uncertainty eased. Following tariff negotiations with the U.S., economic uncertainty has significantly declined, with the 15% rate matching or falling below that of major countries.
The government pledged that it will swiftly execute the new supplementary budget and concentrate the capabilities of all government agencies so that the consumption coupons can serve as an opportunity to revitalize domestic demand. It also stated that officials will undertake all-out efforts to respond to trade risks, such as supporting companies affected by U.S. tariffs. Park Jun-an, Arirang News.
The latest torrential rain here in the greater Seoul area has taken at least 3 lives. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
3 people died in South Korea's capital area on Wednesday amid heavy rain in the region. Over in Gimpo, west of Seoul, an elderly man was found dead in the back seat of a car after it plunged into a river. And in Incheon, a man in his 40s was killed when his car skidded off the road and into a lake, while a woman in her 70s died as the car she was in crashed into a traffic light on a slippery road. The torrential rain triggered heavy rain alerts in Seoul, Incheon, Gyeonggi-do, Gangwon-do, and Jeollanam-do Provinces, as the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters raised its emergency response to Level 2. Evacuation orders were also issued for areas near rivers at risk of flooding in Seoul and parts of Gyeonggi-do Province. The heavy rains also led to train service on the Gyeonggi-Jungang line between Ilsan and Susek stations to be temporarily suspended on Wednesday, with delays on other sections. For safety, trains on the Gyeonggi line between Ujeongbu and Daeguk stations were also halted for the entire day. The Korea Meteorological Administration says 30 to 50 millimeters of rain per hour could continue through Thursday morning in the central region. Total rainfall through Thursday is expected to reach 50 to 150 millimeters in the capital area and up to 200 millimeters in Incheon and northern Gyeonggi-do regions. Gangwon could see as much as 150 millimeters and parts of Chungcheong up to 100 millimeters. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Elsewhere, 3 lives have also been lost in Europe amid rampant wildfires aggravated by extreme weather conditions. Our Park Eun-woo has more.
At least 3 lives have been lost in intensifying wildfires across Europe, 1 each in Spain, Turkey, and Albania. And in Greece, consecutive blazes have forced the evacuation of thousands, especially near Patras, the country's 3rd largest city.
It looks like doomsday. We can't do anything more. May God help us and help the people here.
About 5,000 firefighters and around 30 aircraft have been battling flames on both the mainland and islands, including Chios. Greece has even requested assistance from other European countries and is applying for more aircraft through the EU Civil Protection Mechanism. But extreme weather, including strong winds and scorching heat, is hindering efforts. Heat alerts are in place as temperatures are soaring above 40 degrees Celsius in nearby countries, which are intensifying the wildfires. In Spain, thousands have been ordered to evacuate, including over 5,000 in the Castile and Leon regions. Residents in the country's north have also participated in containing the fire, saying the official response isn't sufficient.
The fire brigades with carts and bulldozers, it's complicated for them to extinguish the fire because there are several active fires in different towns.
Amid wildfires that have persisted for weeks across Europe, the European Union has provided assistance to fire-hit countries, including non-member states, by sending firefighters, ground crews, and aircraft. And these efforts are expected to continue as the wildfires keep burning, while the extreme summer weather continues. Park Eun-woo, Arirang News.
Back on the local front, the ruling Democratic Party has launched a special committee for media reform. The committee will address follow-up measures after the passage of bills that change, among other aspects, how the heads of public broadcasters are appointed. On the agenda of the Media Reform Committee is the restructuring of the Korea Communications Commission and the Korea Communications Standards Commission, as well as the introduction of punitive damages for fake news. At the committee's first meeting earlier today, DP leader Chung Chang-nae said the reform will serve to better protect public rights. Former First Lady Kim Gun-hee appeared at the special counsel's office earlier this morning for her first questioning session since being arrested earlier this week on corruption charges. The session lasted some 4 hours, with the special counsel team focused on her alleged interference in the candidate nomination process in past elections. According to the team, Kim refused to respond to most of the allegations. The team plans to hold another round of questioning next Monday. Meanwhile, South Korea is slated to ship its K-9 self-propelled howitzers to Vietnam. According to defense industry sources on this Thursday, a government-to-government contract was inked late last month to export 20 of these artillery weapons produced by Hanwha Aerospace to Vietnam for $250 million. This marks the first time for South Korean-made howitzers to enter the Southeast Asian market. The deal with Vietnam also marks the first time South Korea sold its weapons to a communist country. On the cultural front, a traditional performance with an appealing twist that brings to mind a sensational K-pop inspired movie is creating new waves. Our An Sung-jin files this report.
The dense blue fur shakes as the tiger stands on its feet. Its oversized mask, weathered yet alive, seems to breathe. This is 사자춤 or 사자탈춤, directly translated as the lion dance. It's a traditional Korean dance or folk play that portrays a lion to bring good fortune. But Yeonhee Connect Il, a group of young performers, have given it a twist to it, using a tiger instead. The tiger happens to resemble the character Duffy from K-pop Demon Hunters, but the group say they began using it instead of a lion to combine elements of its fierceness, traditional Korean folk paintings, and the symbol of the mythical Seoul Hette creature with its team color blue.
The fact that this piece reminded some of K-pop Demon Hunters suggests that we successfully conveyed a universal narrative combining traditional themes and immersive media.
Through performances like this, the group works on bringing traditional folk performance arts back to life. It often performs a type of Korean percussion music known as hamulnori. But rather than merely replicating the tradition, it instead adds digital projections or modern media like DJing.
We aim to continue building on the foundation of traditional Korean performance arts while incorporating modern aspects through contemporary storytelling, media art, and choreography to create entirely new stage experiences.
For them, it's not about reproducing the past, but creating works that breathe with the present. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
In other news, Jeollanam-do Province is slated to spearhead the new administration's energy transformation as the province is home to relevant institutions. Our Cha Yun-kyung explains.
The Korea Institute of Energy Technology, or KANTECH, which is the first global university solely focused on energy and technology research, welcomed its first undergraduate and graduate students in 2022. KANTECH has 5 major energy research areas, which are AI and energy materials and devices, green modernization, hydrogen energy, and environmental and climate technology. KANTECH launched a National Energy Research Center last month to establish industry-academic cooperation in order to help the energy industry utilize and capitalize on its R&D results.
We are studying models that can be designed by integrating power system operation, generation, transmission, and storage, which is at the highest level in Korea and, in my opinion, is not far behind the US level.
Jeollanam-do Province's efforts are now perfectly aligned with the new government's policy direction, laying the groundwork to take a greater step forward. The province will lead in energy transformation, which is a common task for mankind.
The government is expected to open a climate and energy department in Jeollanam-do Province utilizing KEPCO and KANTECH, which can create industry-academic cooperation clusters. Cha Yun-kyung, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. U.S. President Donald Trump held an online summit with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and key European leaders ahead of his upcoming face-to-face meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska. Hosted from Berlin on Wednesday, the online meeting brought together President Zelensky, European leaders including German Chancellor Merz, French President Macron, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, alongside President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. The attendees shared thoughts that any peace must include Ukraine's voice, reject territorial concessions, and proceed with firm security guarantees. Zelensky warned that Putin's pledge to pause aggression was a bluff aimed at stronger leverage on the battlefield. President Trump later described the call as a very good conversation and warned that Russia would face very severe consequences if Putin didn't agree to end the war after their summit on Friday. Israel is reportedly discussing the resettlement of Palestinians and is making diplomatic progress with Indonesia. According to Israel's N12 television, citing sources on Wednesday, Israel has approached Indonesia, Somaliland, Uganda, South Sudan, and Libya to gauge willingness to accept displaced Palestinians from Gaza under plans described by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as voluntary migration. Though no firm agreements have been signed, some progress has reportedly been made with Indonesia and Somaliland. Indonesia previously made a humanitarian offer, including treating up to 2,000 wounded Palestinians earlier this month and temporarily accepting around 1,000 war refugees in April. South Sudan, however, has denied involvement. Its foreign ministry labeled earlier reports of resettlement talks with Israel as baseless and not reflective of its official policy. In the U.S. state of Alaska, an outburst of water from a glacial lake led to urgent evacuations on Wednesday. Authorities have warned residents in the state capital Juneau that water from a basin has burst through and flooded the Mendenhall River to record levels, peaking at over 5 meters, exceeding last year's high water mark. The National Weather Service has issued a flood warning and urged residents in the high-risk inundation zone to evacuate immediately. Glacial lake outbursts occur when a lake formed by the melting of snow, ice, and rain drains rapidly, much like pulling a plug from a full bathtub. Flooding has been a recurring concern in the area since 2011, and in just 1 year last year, hundreds of homes were damaged. American singer and actress Beyoncé Knowles Carter has won her first Emmy Award. Beyoncé won the award for Outstanding Costumes for Variety, Nonfiction, or Reality Programming for her Netflix special Beyoncé Bowl, a Christmas Day NFL halftime show featuring songs from her Cowboy Carter album. She shared the honor with 5 collaborators, including lead designer Shiona Turini. Beyoncé had previously received 10 Emmy nominations without a win. Choi Ji-hee, Arirang News.
It's mainly raining in the southern Gyeonggi-do Province and the Chungcheong-do provinces today. More than 100 millimeters of rain will fall in Sejong and Chungcheongnam-do Province, 10 to 60 millimeters in southern Gyeonggi-do and the Chungcheong-do provinces, southern Gangwon-do and northwestern parts of Gyeongsangbuk-do Province today. Meanwhile, the heat is continuing in the southern parts of the country. A heat warning has been issued for the Gyeongsang-do provinces, Jeollanam-do Province, and coastal areas of Jeju Island, and a heat wave advisory for inland areas of the Chungcheong-do provinces and Jeollanam-do Province. Seoul, Daejeon, and Gwangju will start off at 25 degrees Celsius tomorrow morning, Chuncheon at 23 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 32 degrees in Seoul, Chuncheon, Daejeon, and Jeju. Rain will continue in the central parts of the country until tomorrow afternoon. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up next is our daily panel discussion.